18 years old, football player, wanted 3 daughters one day, already had the names picked out. Sophia, Charlotte, Olivia. That's who Nolan Wells was. So how does a young man like that go to a holiday party on an island with his friends and end up dead in the water while everybody else goes home? That's what his mama wants to know. And after today, so does half the country. Because here's the thing. The people who investigated his death say nobody did anything to him. They say he probably drowned. No foul play. Case closed, more or less. But the folks who raised him, the folks who knew that boy better than anybody on this earth, they stood up in a church today and said, "Nah, that story's got too many holes in it." Let me tell you how we got here. If you are staying with us, take a second right now and hit subscribe so you don't miss where this goes next. And while you're here, tell us on the comment where in the world you are watching from. It matters to us to know how far this story have reached, and we read every single one. Nolan Xavier Wells was from Ocean Springs, Mississippi, and to understand why hundreds of people packed a church for him today, you got to understand what he was to the people around him. He was the big brother, the one everybody looked up to. He had a house full of siblings, and every one of them was watching him, especially the younger ones. One of his little brothers played the exact same position he did on the football field, chased his shadow, wanted to be just like him. And Nolan? He wanted that too. He wanted his brother to be great, wanted all of them to be great. His daddy had a nickname for him, called him Mr. Cool Hands, and that name was earned now, because it seemed like every game this boy was catching a touchdown. Every game. But that didn't come from nowhere. His father poured everything he had into him, took him to the gym, took him to the beach, and ran drills in the sand till the boy could barely stand. Sat him down and taught him how to watch film, how to study another team, how to find a man's weakness and go right at it. And Nolan carried all of that, through middle school, through high school, all the way to a college football program. Ocean Springs High School, then on to community college ball. The jerseys tell the story. But here's what I want you to sit with. When his people talked about him today, the football wasn't even the main thing. They talked about how he made you feel. His mother said he had this gentle, calming way about him, said he could walk in a room and make a stranger feel like they belonged there, said he could lift your confidence up with just a couple words. Quiet kid, a little shy. The type to tell a corny joke and give you that soft smile and just put everybody at ease. You know the type. Everybody got one in the family, the peacemaker, the one who checks on you. And here's the part that stays with you. This was a young man already dreaming about being a father. He told his parents more than once, one day he wanted 3 daughters, and he wasn't playing about it. He already had the names: Sophia, Charlotte, Olivia. 18 years old, planning out a whole life, a whole family, names and everything. Now hold on to that.
Brought not only to our family, but also to his friends and everyone in the community whose lives he touched. Nolan had such a gentle, calming spirit about him. He had a way of making people feel seen, welcome, and valued. He could lift your confidence with just a few words and make you feel like you belonged. If you ever had the privilege of meeting our son Nolan or calling him a friend, then you experienced a glimpse of God's love through him. He was both protective and nurturing. He often told us that one day he wanted to have 3 daughters that he would name Sophia, Charlotte, and Olivia. He had a deep love for the Lord.
Because 2 weeks ago, all of that just stopped. It was the 4th of July, holiday, and a group of young friends did what young friends do on the 4th. They went looking for a good time. The plan was a boat trip out to a place called Horn Island. Now, if you don't know it, Horn Island is a long, wild barrier island out in the Gulf, sitting just south of Ocean Springs. And I mean wild. No buildings, no lifeguards, no nothing, just sand and water and whoever shows up. And on that day, a whole lot of people showed up. Here's a detail I need you to remember because it's going to matter. The night before the trip, Nolan stayed over at his friend's place. Why? So he could ride out with them on the boat the next morning. He was with them the night before. He left with them that morning. Keep that in your pocket. By the time they got out to the island, it was packed. People who were there described it as a huge party. Hundreds of people. Music going, folks drinking, the whole thing. The kind of crowd where it is real easy to lose sight of one person. One face in a sea of faces. And somewhere in all that, according to his friends, Nolan met a girl. The last time anybody reported seeing him out there was around 3 o'clock in the afternoon. Then the day wound down, and when it was time to go, his friends got back on that boat and went home. Nolan didn't. That's what they told the authorities, that he chose to stay behind on the island because of the girl. Now, his family heard that, and something didn't sit right. His parents said, "That's not him." Leaving the group, staying by himself on some remote island with no way back home. That was out of character for Nolan. This was the boy who made sure everybody felt included, who made everybody feel comfortable. He wasn't the type to peel off and vanish. So when they heard he chose to stay, they had questions, real ones. That evening, one of his friends reached out to the family, and Nolan's mother, hearing that something was wrong, picked up the phone and reported her son missing. The search started the next morning, and what they were about to find, that's where this whole thing cracks wide open. The search started the morning of July 5th, and on July 6th, 2 days after the party, they found him. Nolan's body was recovered from the water right there near the island his friends had left him on. 18 years old. Gone. Just like that. Now let me tell you something. When a family gets that kind of news, most of the time the world expects them to just fall apart and accept it. Accident. Tragedy. Move on. But this family didn't move on. Because the more they looked at what happened, the more they felt like the pieces weren't fitting together. And once you hear what they're pointing at, you'll understand why. Start with the phone and the keys. When Nolan didn't come home, his parents needed his things. His phone, his keys, basic stuff. And they got them back, but not from Nolan. They came from his friends, the same friends who went home on that boat without him. His mother had to go and retrieve her son's phone and keys after he was already reported missing. So think about that for a second. Your friend stays behind on an island, and y'all leave, with his phone and his keys in your possession. Make it make sense. Now, one of the friends did give an explanation. He said Nolan left his phone with him on purpose, to protect it from the ocean. And remember what I told you to keep in your pocket? Nolan had stayed with those friends the night before so he could ride out with them. So there's a version of this where it's all innocent. A phone left behind so it don't get wet. Friends who rode together. That's the version the family was told. But the family looked at that same set of facts and said, hold on. What 18-year-old you know hands over their phone and just walks off? The family's own attorney put it plain. He said this was a young man last seen alive in the water and asked the question everybody's been asking since. If he's drowning, how does nobody see it? Nobody offers help. Nobody tries to save him in a crowd of hundreds. And then there's the timeline on those phones and keys. The family says they didn't surface right away. They came back 2 days later. And the family says nobody came forward and said, hey, I've got Nolan's phone. They say, when the friends were asked about it, the story shifted. And they say by the time the phone actually got into anybody's hands to look at, There were things erased off of it. Now, I want to be straight with you here. That last part about things being erased that's coming from the family's side, and the reverend speaking at the funeral, that's what they're raising. It hasn't been proven out in any report we've seen, but you can understand why. For a grieving mother and father, a phone that changes hands twice and comes back with anything missing is going to set off every alarm they've got. Then there's the piece the family keeps circling back to. Where did he go? And who was he with? They describe it like he vanished in plain sight, out on the water in the middle of a packed party, and then just found dead. The attorney summed up the whole feeling in one line. He said, "The boat came back, and Nolan washed up on the shore 2 days later dead. Went out with the group. Didn't come back with the group. Where's my brother? That's the question hanging over all of it. Now here's where it splits. Here's the fork in the road. On one side, you got the Jackson County Sheriff, John Ledbetter, and law enforcement's read on this is that they have not found signs of foul play. They think Nolan may have drowned, and they're not just guessing wild. Locals will tell you the currents around Horn Island are dangerous. It's a wild island, rough water, and it was a chaotic party where a lot of folks were drinking. Put all that together, and you can see how a young man ends up in trouble in that water. The sheriff has said the investigation is still going, that they're working diligently to figure out exactly what happened, and that this family deserves a thorough and factual investigation. On the other side, you got Nolan's parents, and they are not accepting he drowned as the final word. They've said flat out they don't believe it was an accident. They believe something else happened to their son and then got hidden. Two completely different stories about the same young man in the same water. And here's what took this from a local Mississippi case to something the whole country started watching. The family didn't just grieve quietly. They lawyered up, and not with just anybody. They brought in Ben Crump. If you don't know that name, you know his cases. Trayvon Martin, Michael Brown, Breonna Taylor. Crump is the attorney a whole lot of black families call when they feel like the system is about to sweep their child under the rug. And when Crump signs on, the cameras come. The country turns its head. Crump's whole position was about transparency. He kept saying the family just wants the truth, no matter which way it points. He said it like this: "We stand for truth, no matter who it implicates or exonerates," meaning, if the investigation clears everybody, fine. If it doesn't, fine. Just do the work and show us. Don't tell a grieving mother no foul play before you've even finished looking. And the family pushed that fairness point hard. They said, "You want to examine Nolan's phone? Cool. Then examine everybody's phone. Everybody who was with him that day, on that boat, on that island. Because if the roles were reversed, they said y'all would be looking at Nolan's phone. So look at all of them. Equal justice. That's all they asked for. And there's one more layer here you can't skip. Because the family and the people standing with them kept bringing up one word: Mississippi. They kept pointing at the history. This is a state with a past, and everybody in that church knew exactly what that meant. When you've watched history, when you've seen how certain cases in certain places get handled or don't get handled, you don't just take no foul play and go home. You ask questions, loud ones. So that's the setup going into the funeral. A dead 18-year-old, a sheriff saying accident, a family saying no, a country watching, and a whole community showing up to make sure nobody forgets his name. And the funeral itself? That's where all of this came to a head. So today, they laid Nolan Wells to rest. And it wasn't a small thing. Hundreds of people filled that church in Ocean Springs. Former teammates from his high school, teammates from his college, A whole busload of them rode in just to stand with the family. His mother had asked folks to wear color if they wanted to, so the room was full of blue, light blue especially. His blue casket up front wrapped in baby blue and white flowers, his jerseys framed on both sides. Then his mother stood up, and through her tears she talked about her boy. She talked about the corny jokes, the quiet spirit, that gentle smile, and she left the room with something to hold on to. She said, "In a world that can often feel dark, be like Nolan. Be the light that brightens the lives of those around you."
Nolan, your father and I are incredibly proud of you. We've always been proud of you, of the young man you were, and we will always be proud of the legacy of love, kindness, and faith that you have left behind. In a world that can often feel dark, be like Nolan. Be the light that brightens the lives of those around you. Be the warmth for those who may be feeling the coldness of the world. Love deeply, protect fiercely, and welcome others with kindness. And remain faithful knowing that God is always with you. Lastly, I ask that each of you keep Nolan's memory alive. Hold him close in your hearts. Share his stories and never stop saying his name. As long as we continue to remember him, his light will continue to shine through us all.
His father got up too, couldn't hardly get through it. This is the man who nicknamed him Mr. Cool Hands, who ran those drills with him in the sand, and now he's burying him. He told that whole church Nolan meant a lot to a lot of people, but this funeral wasn't just grief, it was a demand. The Reverend Al Sharpton flew in to give the eulogy, and he didn't soften it. He reached all the way back to the Bible, Cain and Abel, the first brothers, the first time one man had to answer for what happened to another, and he turned it right on that room. He said, "I hear this morning Nolan's blood crying from the ground." Then he put the pressure where he wanted it. He said somebody out there knows something. Somebody saw something. And he told law enforcement their job is to follow the oath, not to follow the preference of what goes down. And then the money hit the table, a reward for anybody who comes forward with information that leads to an arrest and a conviction. It started at $50,000. Then it doubled, right there in the service, up to $100,000. On top of that, the actor and director Tyler Perry stepped in and paid for the whole funeral. Didn't even have to be asked. Filmmaker Spike Lee showed up to stand with them too. That's the level this reached. That's how many people were saying, "This young man's death is not about to be forgotten." And Ben Crump left the crowd with the questions the whole family's been carrying. He asked, "Wouldn't you want answers? Wouldn't you want the truth? Wouldn't you want justice?" Then he had that whole church on their feet, saying it back over and over. Nolan's life mattered.
Mattered. Nolan's life mattered. Because if something this tragic could happen to their son, it can happen to your children. So we all have to stand up together and say we're fighting for justice for Nolan Wells because he is our son too.
So here's where it stands. No autopsy results yet. No confirmed cause of death. No arrest. One side says he drowned. The other side says no and won't rest until somebody proves it either way. Once the sheriff's office finishes, the case is set to go in front of a grand jury. Until then, questions. But a mother put it best. She asked people to keep saying his name, to share his stories, because as long as he's remembered, she said, his light keeps shining. An 18-year-old who wanted 3 daughters and had already named them. Sophia, Charlotte, Olivia. Names for a future that never got to come. That's the story for now. And that for now is the hard part because Nolan Wells still doesn't have his answer. If something new breaks in this case, you already know we're going to bring it to you. This is Beyond Dark Cases, where we don't let the forgotten stay forgotten, and we keep asking the questions long after the cameras leave. Do me a favor. If this one moved you, hit that like button, subscribe, and turn on notifications so you don't miss the update when it comes. Drop your thoughts in the comments. What do you think really happened out on that island? And say his name while you're down there. Nolan Wells. We'll see you on the next one.